So our next speaker is Sasha Bainer. Her presentation is Beyond Mind in the Sfumato, I said that right, in the Sfumato of Creativity, Divine Reflection on Karma Yoga in the Sustainable Now of Auroville. And Sasha is a master's student in the East-West Psychology Department. She holds a dual master's degree in social work and public administration from Columbia University. Her career was focused on developmental and educational administration, owing her professional success to a lifelong fascination and burning desire to both understand and help people. Studying at CIIS offers a chance for Sasha to incorporate spirituality into her professional life with the goal of lessening suffering for herself and others. She has a deep personal interest in Sri Aurobindo's integrative approach to spirituality and has explored the intersections of spirituality, philosophy, and psychology in her work. She's passionate about sharing the profound insights and holistic vision of Sri Aurobindo's philosophy with a wider audience, facilitating deeper understandings and personal growth. Sasha.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks to CIIS and Debashish and to everyone who's spoken in these rich talks throughout this conference. It's interesting, this talk, actually, the word reflection is here, and it comes up throughout the presentation. But I think what's really interesting is that almost every presentation that's been given is reflected in this one. So you may hear yourself here. I certainly hear all of you here in this. So at any rate, okay, let's see. Beyond Mind in the Sfumato of Creativity, Divine Reflection on Karma Yoga in the Sustainable Now of Auroville. Okay, so I wrote this presentation because coming back from India, after being there with Debashish and our team of students, I struggled to find a way to explain what I had experienced. And so instead of sharing facts about Auroville, I'm going to try to sort of circumambulate what I experienced subjectively there. So bear with me. Okay. I spent nearly a month in Auroville this summer with Debashish and a group of students from CIIS. While I've studied the philosophies of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and I'm able to share these concepts in my writing and conversations, I was surprised to encounter a challenge of languaging my experience of integral yoga in Auroville. Part of the difficulty is that my experiences were very intimate, subjective, and embodied. I can't open a discussion of language without mentioning how language helps to form identities and to acknowledge the ontology of ownership, which was part of Debashish's earlier speaking. For example, currently, Auroville is encountering new language around spiritual tourism. From an integral view, language is ideally used as a creative medium for the self to know the self. To put this becoming into language runs the risk of becoming a mental construct and can create limits and definitions of what is and what is not a becoming, or what is or is not spiritual tourism, for example, in Auroville. So this paper is seeking to find language that I can use to describe integral yoga as I experienced it in Auroville. Humbly, I hold out the consideration of who am I to create language and the ontology of ownership that comes with it. But the Mother said that Auroville belongs to no one. So here I go. Anyways. Okay, so here are the core concepts. In seeking a personal language to discuss my experiences in Auroville, I'm drawn to explore how art history and Hindu philosophy can inform this endeavor. I've had a lifelong interest in both of these subjects, and I find that they color many of my encounters in the world. I'll share with you a bit about the artistic techniques of Sfumato, wonder at the paradoxical infinity of Upanishadic reflection, which I feel suggests a consideration of linear perspective, and connect this to the surrender of Karma Yoga, explaining how all three are at play in Auroville. I'll share with you my subjective experience in Auroville through the descriptions and exploration of these three reference points. My hope is that the audience will experience a bit of Auroville for themselves as they engage with the descriptive spaces I'm sharing. The languages produced in this exercise describe Auroville as a living canvas where spiritual and practical worlds merge. Sfumato and Upanishadic reflection offer descriptions of the new dawn or understanding of our unity and multiplicity. And Karma Yoga describes how surrendered actions open divine creativity and allow for a blank canvas to transform into a masterpiece, or for a barren, arid land of Auroville to become a verdant forest. Okay, so everybody's been asking me, what is sfumato? It's not an ice cream flavor. So sfumato is a painting technique where colors and tones are blended to create smooth transitions and a gradual shift from light to dark. The technique allows artists to depict rounded, three-dimensional forms more realistically and to create atmospheric effects. In essence, it allows a 2D picture to appear like a 3D object. So Leonardo's masterpiece, the Mona Lisa, which you see here, is a great example of sfumato. The sfumato technique is evident in the transitions of light and shadow on her face and in the background landscape. Interestingly, there is a deeper spiritual understanding to sfumato, which can be applied to Auroville, specifically in the way the blurring technique is able to transform our perception from 2 to 3D. In the Upanishads, the world we see is often considered as Maya, a kind of illusion where boundaries and separateness exist. The sfumato technique can be seen as a visual representation of this concept of Maya, illustrating the illusionary and transient nature of the physical world and encouraging viewers to look beyond the illusion to find the underlying unity. The sfumato technique as a visual representation of integral yoga depicts the fluid and interconnected reality where matter and spirit are not separate, but continuous with each other, a world that is beyond binary distinctions of light and dark, foreground and background, illustrating a deeper underlying unity, which I found to coexist on multiple levels in Auroville. On a community level, Auroville can be seen as a real-world application of the sfumato technique in the way in which it intends to be a community where diverse individuals can live in harmony. As we experience, the community faces challenges in harmoniously blending different cultures, backgrounds, ideologies, yet it continually strives to find the balance, much like the delicate play of light and shadow in Mona Lisa's face. Auroville blurs the lines of individuality to foster a sense of communal identity and shared existence. This shared experience is the sincere work of integral yoga in daily life for the Aurovillians. In Auroville, the individual is supported by the community, and the community is supported by the individual. In the community by the individual, revealing a resonance and a mirroring at play in the work of the individual and the community of Auroville. Okay, on to the third lens, Upanishadic traditions and vanishing points. Okay, I've noticed within myself a growing curiosity in the reflective nature of the relationality of self-consciousness, and I'm coming to understand it as an engine of becoming. This understanding can be found in the Upanishads and was very present for me during the trip to Auroville. I'm feeling into an imagery space in which the infinite is holding up a mirror to the individual who is holding a mirror up to the divine, each allowing the other to know themselves through the reflection offered. Entering this relational space, we enter the infinite multiplicity paradox, the never-ending cascade of imagery produced by two mirrors reflecting one another. It's as if the radical infinity and the unity of the divine are holding up mirrors. And as with a mirror in this 3D world, when they reflect each other, they produce a cascade of imagery that continues into infinity. In this way, the Upanishads opens this door to experiential knowledge of the infinite by allowing us to position our consciousness between two mirrors. While our minds cannot see to the end in any direction, we are able to see into the fields of the vanishing points. This seeing into the vanishing points is what I understand to be the invitation of the Upanishads and the opportunity in Auroville. Similarly, linear perspective, which organizes the world from a singular viewpoint, can symbolize the individual soul navigating the world of Maya, constantly moving towards realizing its true nature, which is not different from ultimate reality. For just as linear perspective leads to a singular vanishing point, creating a sense of depth and unity and diversity, the Upanishads guides individuals to the understanding of the oneness of all beings. grounded in Brahman, emphasizing a deep interconnectedness and unity underlying the apparent diversity and multiplicity of the physical world. While sfumato and linear perspective are different techniques, they can work together harmoniously in a painting to enhance the realistic representation of space and form. Together, they are very interesting when considered with Sri Aurobindo's philosophy of the evolution of consciousness. The techniques foster a canvas that is both a reflection of the outer world as well as an invitation to explore the inner depths of consciousness, a visual journey towards the ultimate realization of the Upanishadic truth of oneness. From the perspective of consciousness and perception, the linear perspective in art represents the individual point of view grounded in physical reality, while sfumato might symbolize a more diffuse, universal consciousness that permeates physical reality. By integrating these two techniques in art, one could interpret a rich visual philosophy that's aligning with Sri Aurobindo's teachings on spiritual evolution and the pursuit of higher consciousness. Depicting a yoga that is embodied in the world, Sri Aurobindo wrote that all of life is yoga, and certainly we see that at play in Auroville. Okay. Oh, I don't know where that came from. That was cool though. That's not supposed to be there, but oh, you don't see that one. Okay. Anyways, Karma yoga, creativity, and surrender to force and creative force. Okay. The concept of karma yoga from the Bhagavad Gita refers to the yoga of selfless action. It's a path of spiritual realization through the righteous and detached performance of duties without attachment to the fruits of the actions. Auroville stands as a testament to the practical application of karma yoga principles, creating a living, breathing community grounded in the spirit of selfless service, conscious living, and harmonious coexistence, which aims for a higher spiritual realization through daily actions. Karma yoga encourages a path where actions are not reactive, but rather arise from a deep grounding in the divine presence, nurturing responses that are balanced, harmonious, and directed towards a higher collective good. The principles of karma yoga places immense emphasis on surrendering individual will to the divine and being a vessel for the divine will to manifest. The workings of the mother are thus known, for example, in Auroville, moment to moment through the surrendered works of karma yoga. This is a process of radical embodied presence, leading to a great equanimity among experience, as each moment is come to be seen as the creative expression of divinity. I'm not sure. I think maybe Jonathan has a different one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so in conclusion, beyond mind, Sfumato of Creativity, divine reflection on karma yoga, in the sustainable now of Auroville. These are all kind of big words, but I'm trying to bring them together. I feel like they need to come together. It's like the only way I can really express what I felt when I was there. So here we go. This presentation has sought to offer language that opens an experiential space that is beyond the mind, offering the audience an opportunity to engage for themselves with some of what Auroville offers. Though through these discussions of sfumato, linear perspective, and karma yoga, I've tried to lend language to describe Auroville as a society maintaining itself through a philosophy rooted in present moment awareness of divine reflection. In Auroville, the subjective experience is inherently in relation with the collective, and it is in the friction of this interaction that the self is reflected and can be seen not as distant and isolated, but rather possessing a sfumato-like quality, which connects the dots, so to speak, and knows itself to be a larger masterpiece, one in which there is a structure that points and draws the attention to a vanishing point. This is an orientation which offers a constant invitation to humility, as a realization dawns that becoming is an ongoing process without an end. The sustainability of Auroville lives in this reflective collectivity. There is a transmutation of consciousness that occurs by engaging in a meditative space characterized by a full harnessing of one's inherent interconnectedness to the whole, coupled with the humble perspective that all beings are continually evolving, combined with a radical presence of the now, opening a surrender into the energy womb of latent potential. It's a mouthful. A hermeneutical process of reflection is inherent to this inquiry of this presentation and can be further understood through an Upanishadic reflective perspective. I've personally entered this inquiry as a praxis of becoming, seeking a deeper understanding of Auroville, the mother, and to arrive at a greater knowing of myself and all of humanity, as what Debashish Banerjee has said, manifesting instruments of the force of divine Shakti as revealed through relation. I hope I've been able to convey to the audience a taste of this experience in these descriptive languages, as this is my application of Da Vinci's Sfumato, in which the distinction between my sense of self and the mother blends and vanishes. It empowers me to accept the invitation from Auroville to experience an unmediated experience of the divine grace. It's an acknowledgement of a different consciousness of who I am and where I choose to be conscious. Auroville calls us to interact beyond the intersecting lines of perspective, to open to a space of infinite possibility, which is inherently sustainable in that it allows selfless service to naturally emerge as a praxis and orientation from unity consciousness. Thank you so much. Oh, I don't have those on there, sorry. Stick right there.
Thank you, Sasha, for this very interdimensional sharing. I really deeply feel what you're saying, and I want to ask you, regarding this idea of the vanishing point, would that make sense to you to relate it to your experience inside the matrimandir?
Yeah, no, for sure. There was a whole, given the timing, I cut that whole part out.
Yeah.
But there's a whole part on
just a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of this was all about, there were pages and pages about, you know, the architecture, what was happening with the light inside of the inner chamber, the petals, the technologies of becoming there. Yeah, and sort of, you know, even was it Steph that showed the picture of the water below the Matrimandir and how it cascades in? Part of that even to me feels like a vanishing point. It has that essence to it.
Yeah. It's somehow an aesthetic that is an opening of something beyond form.
Yes, that's
vanishing.
The part beyond mind.
Yeah,
my
beyond
title.
mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this aspect of grace. It is present all over in the place.
Sweet.
Whether whoever lives there, doesn't matter, whoever struggles, whatever struggle is, you can feel it when you walk or you drive in the sun, you know, coming to Matrimandir, walking back home. It's really there. This is the focal point of some work.
Yeah.
And we used to say that it is in spite of us Auroville lives. We are there kind of to benefit from that place. It has that charge, that focal point. I'm very glad that you brought this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sasha. Now, vanishing point with your subjective experience also invites us for many other realities, including something can be called as the twilight zones.
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Twilight.
Oh, twilight zone. Yeah. For liminal zone, I think of it as.
So that zones of the twilight and this experience of the vanishing point as zones of twilights and what is its implication for the subjective, objective community building. Then in terms of the art history and the Sfumato and the visual, but there is also an invitation of listening. And therefore the whole experiment is not only visual, but though the visibility of the Matrimandir and everything, but also how do we cultivate the practices of listening in the context of the predominance of the optical in modernity and including Matrimandir as an optical space. It has layers of listening which needs to be cultivated. Then Karma Yoga as surrender, but surrender in a very elementary sense could be, oh, we just raise our hands. But surrender as collaboration also needs to be, thought about and embodied.
Yeah, really excellent points. And yes, I maybe I didn't do a good job of communicating that, but yes, karma yoga in the sense of the communal form of it and what it implies is alive to me, at least in Auroville, very much. Something I felt. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking more with you too.
Thank you, Sasha. It was beautiful
Excellent.
and very intriguing. Thank you for bringing forth. I mean, I've never heard of almost of the Sfumato, and I did think it was an ice cream. So it's it's very interesting that that's a technique that apparently Da Vinci used, because it was during Da Vinci's lifetime that a shift happened where the West started to use linear perspective in art. So when Da Vinci was younger, that wasn't in that wasn't used. But then he used it very much so later in his life. So this is really, really interesting. So I'm going to ask you this question. So because this shifted for Da Vinci, but do you feel that the energies of nature are emanating to you, that they exist out there? Or do you feel that within you, you imbue energy to what you're seeing?
And that, well, I think it's like the paradox, right? I mean, that's the big, one of the big questions, right? And part of it is that, and why I talked about Sfumato is that it's one of those ways to shift in consciousness from seeing something, Sfumato goes from 2D to 3D. But what I'm really pointing at or trying to point at is a consciousness of singularity, of this sense of being, this, total individual, but this ability and opening and movement towards really believing and feeling in yourself that you are all. So I think you're pointing right to that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Sasha. Very, very stimulating.
So she's, yeah.
So, and I think I also pick up on the optical register that both Ananta and Glenn were talking about.
Yeah.
Which is what you started off by talking about art history and the Indian traditions, Upanishads and Gita that you're bringing together. So that optical dimension actually was very, I mean, as you evocative, as you were speaking about it, I was remembering experience, because there is a quality, a surreal quality to walking around in Auroville, right?
Totally.
It's like, it's the here and now, the space, and at the same time, it's somewhere else at the same time. It's all these places and it's this place, right? That's the Sfumato aspect I got. It's the ever-present origin in that sense.
Yeah.
That, it pervades the oneness that pervades in the optical register. There's a kind of optical sense of it, which is not the subject-object sense. It's not the objectivizal sense, but something that overrides it, just like the illusion of Sfumato overrides it.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask you about the perspectival vanishing point, and also relate to what Glenn was saying about the perspectival vanishing point being an artifact of the Renaissance that actually brings us into modernity, which is a perspectival ontology. A perspectival ontology in the sense that there is this sense of an entire world moving to a single vanishing point, right? Yeah. We are missioned towards a totality of understanding as a human race, in a sense. But I think bringing Sfumato into it includes or brings in also another a greater complexity, which I think you brought out in your image. And I'd like you to consider that for nuancing and expanding on the idea of the vanishing point. So I see it as a multi-perspectival vanishing point.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
I kind of
that's
I
the
feel into
Sfumato,
that.
right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Mhm.
there is one reality and it is moving towards, at the same time it is moving. It's
It's all-
static and it's
And
moving,
both, yeah.
both.
There were
And
pages on that too, but I cut those out.
yeah, and there's and each reality there is also moving, so it's each one has its own vanishing point.
Mhm.
And yet these vanishing points are one vanishing point. It's not the single vanishing point of Renaissance perspectival
And that's why, and
technology.
yeah, that's
you
why I
know?
didn't actually, originally I was going to talk about the linear perspective alongside like its origins and the timing that it came.
Yeah,
But instead I tried to talk about it alongside the Upanishads
right.
because
And
I
you
felt it
could,
needed to be in that
because
discussion.
it is the plurality. It's
Yes.
the plurality and oneness that coexist.
Mhm.
And so I think it becomes the postmodern space in that sense, not the perspectival space of modernity, but the multi-perspectival space of postmodernity that evolves towards a vanishing point,
Yeah.
right? Which you sense, right? And then I think the karma yoga comes in is the sense of the individual work
Mhm.
that is going on. So it's
Mhm.
almost like, and it's a question that Glenn was asking about whether you're going towards it or it's coming towards you. It's really both at once.
It's all of it at one time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's being done, it's happening, and you're participating in it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yes. So thank you. I think
Thank you.
you can expand it in this way,
Okay.
but I think
This is very new thought, so who knows? Thank you.
and the creation of new language. I love that. Yeah.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys.